What's up, everybody? It's your boy Taz, and you are listening to or watching the Intro Podcast. Hey, it's been a couple of years, but I'm excited about this one. I have Mr. Ja'Quoi Griffin in the house. Look, years and years ago, I was telling him before we started this interview, I believe he is a manifester for real, y'all, because a couple of years ago, whenever we done our initial interview, he said in the interview that he believed that he was going to be in the same space with the one and only Kirk Franklin. And in recent years, but years later, this man was in the same space with Kirk Franklin. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the one and only Ja'Quoi is in the house, man. What's up?
How's it going, man? Hello, everybody. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Man, what's been going on? I mean, it's been years. What's been going on with you?
A lot. I don't know where to start. I guess I'll start with music. So I did have a few opportunities to work with Kirk Franklin that really caught me off guard. Surreal experience, man. Really good guy, good group of people. I was actually recommended by one of my friends, Nikki Sanford, for a group that they kind of pull singers when they need certain singers for events. So shout out to Nikki Sanford for that.
She's really dope also.
Yes, she is. Good people. So I've just been working on music. I released a new project entitled Rest in God in 2020. Just before that, I want to say maybe 2017 to 2020, my mother was battling cancer, breast cancer. So I was dealing with that, and she passed away in April of 2020. So, grief has been something that has been knocking at my door. So I've had to deal with grief, anxiety, lots of other emotions and feelings. That's been a bulk of what's going on, just dealing with the grief, counseling, depression medicine. I released a project when I was home. I had a lot of time to kill. So did that and kind of got back into the groove of things as far as like singing more and being more social. Mm-hmm. And just more recently, actually this past couple of weeks ago, I released my first book entitled Rest in God. So I'm still sharing my testimony of my journey through grief. And in this book, I kind of expound more on some of the information that's not as public. Right, so I dive into like my relationship with my father, just knowing that my mother was dying, my upbringing, how I kind of got started in music. I'm unpacking a lot more information that I don't typically share verbally in this book, because the music has impacted and encouraged a lot of people. So God pushed me to take a different approach and a different avenue to kind of share the same testimony. So in a nutshell, that has been everything outside of working and trying to stay warm in the cold weather and all of that good stuff.
So let me just start over then. How are you doing, Ja'Quoi?
Right now, I can honestly say that I'm okay. When I say I'm okay, the weight of grief is not there anymore. I still think about my mom. I still think about my grandmother almost every day, if not every day. But counseling has helped me. My community has helped me. God has obviously helped me through those. My counseling and community. But like now I can talk about my mom and not break down and cry like a newborn baby every single time. I can actually go to work, and I'm not myself, but I'm more normal than what I have been in the past months. So I'm able to sit and talk about, this and go to work and still sing at events and still, do my day-to-day activities and be okay. So I can honestly say that I'm in a good place right now.
But if y'all have not heard Ja'Quoi sing, I promise you one thing: he will take you in less than 5 seconds. This boy is anointed from God. Let's start at the beginning of things, though. How did it feel the very first time you were in the same room after being recommended by Nikki to actually be in the room with Kirk?
Well, the first time I was actually, I was still in Michigan. My mom had just died, and I was in Michigan for about 2 months, just taking care of the family, trying to resolve everything. And I hadn't set a date to come back to Texas yet. I was just there. So I get a notification. I can't remember if it was from Nikki or DeMarcus Williams, but they reached out saying, we need singers for this event. Kirk Franklin's doing a taping or whatever. I'm like, me, Ja'Quoi Griffin? Like, So I'm looking at the message, like, so, I told my siblings and close friends, like, I have an opportunity to sing with Kirk. So booked my flight back. I came back that Monday, I want to say. I think the event was that Tuesday. And so it was like an open field out in Arlington. And, I went to the back row and, I'm just happy to be here, right?
Right.
went to the back row, and they have a stage, and then so I'm at the very back, and they say, okay, everybody turn around. So when we turn around, I'm at the second row.
Oh
So on
wow.
the video, I think it was like the grassroots recording, you can literally see me. I'm like within a few arms reach of Kirk Franklin. So it was a little weird
Uh-huh.
because I'm trying to be normal, but I'm in some cases I'm still starstruck, and I've gotten a lot better
Exactly.
with it now. So I'm like, man, like I've watched this man growing up in his music and his videos, and
Yes.
this is surreal. I'm in the same area. So that was the first time, and then I think the second time we did the Justin Bieber and Chance the Rapper had a song called Holy.
Uh-huh.
And so I got a call to your studio session, not knowing who it was for.
Yeah.
So I get there and it's at Kirk's studio, and I'm like, this is surreal. Like, this is crazy. And then we find out who we're singing for is Chance the Rapper and Justin Bieber. I'm on their song. So I'm like, and there's other singers as well. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. Like, this is not to say I'm taking the credit, but I'm in the same room with people that I've listened to growing up. And so I'm
Absolutely.
in there trying to be calm, and I'm trying to make sure I'm on my part and not be weird. So I actually went up and shook Kurt's hand afterwards, and just thanked him for the opportunity. Um, Humble guy, humble. I
Yeah.
know we all have our opinions about celebrities. My experience every time I work with him is he's a really good guy. He looks
Yeah.
out for his people. He takes care of us. You can ask him questions. He's approachable, and that says a lot more about an artist to me than just seeing them on stage, how they are off stage. That's been my
Absolutely.
experience.
Because a lot
And
of people a lot of artists are not approachable. They are
it's
very ego driven, and so just to have someone else confirm what I already know, because sometimes people can be a certain way sometime, but then they change. But
Mhm.
for you to confirm, because I've had the opportunity to speak with Kirk. Of course, it was through a Zoom meeting, but just knowing that same feeling that I got on the Zoom, you got in person, just confirms that Kirk is really that guy.
And I've kind of I take a different approach when it comes to that. Like, I think we forget that celebrities and public figures are human.
Yeah.
So, if I see them and they're at an event, okay, in my mind, maybe they had a long flight, maybe they're missing their family, maybe they had a rude customer service
Hmm.
agent. I take that. So if somebody's rude, I generally would take that approach and give them grace, right?
Yeah.
But if I see you 5, 6, 7 times you're the same way, then maybe that's a character flaw. So maybe as a fan or a supporter, I need to pray for
Hmm.
you and not, oh my gosh, they rude. I don't want to. They're
Yeah.
human, and I think we forget that. So let's say if he were rude, I would have given him grace.
Yeah.
I would have, but he wasn't. So that's just my take. But if he rude, okay. Calm down. He still has blood running through his body like we do. So,
He's still a human
but yeah,
at the end of the
good guy,
day.
really good guy.
You are a very humble. In speaking of somebody being the same way, every time I read or see something on social media or just in our environments like this, you are the same person. What drives you to be this approachable, humble, yet professional person all the time?
I often think about my struggles and where I come from.
Hmm.
And I know people like don't dwell on the past. I think about that. Like, I remember growing up being this kid in Ben Harbor who couldn't really. I mean, I could sing, but I didn't know the art of singing. I didn't know how to blend.
Hmm.
I didn't know any of that. So for me to get to a place where it's like I'm unapproachable is kind of foul.
Yeah.
So like there's other people that I've met, like, that I've been able to pour into and just kind of give whatever wisdom I have. That is what I long to do. Like, I long to help the next person and be of light. So if I've made it this far, okay, I have not arrived, right? I'm not where I
Hmm.
want to be, but I've come from where I used to be. So
Yeah.
my job now is to reach back and help the next person. Or if I'm having a conversation with a younger singer, hey, here's some things I would suggest. That keeps me in a place of being humble. It keeps me in a place of giving back. Like, I don't have all the answers, but what I have, let me share with the next person.
Yeah.
Let me make somebody else's path easier than what mine was at that age. Um, I also think it's part of my character. Like, I enjoy helping people,
Yeah.
and sometimes I help people too much. Sometimes I'm too nice. But it's my heart, man. Like, I don't find pleasure in being rude or
Yeah.
unapproachable. And let me be honest. There's some moments where, especially with grief, I'm just like, I just want to talk to anybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's nothing personal. I just don't want to talk to anybody. And
Yeah.
I've been snappy with people. Just being honest. Do I mean it? No. But outside of grief and outside of like certain, life events, typically I'm approachable. I'm
No.
pretty mild mannered.
So I need you to help me, man. This interview and the book and everything that I'm going to have to purchase. This is really going to help me because I want to say about 4 or 5 years ago, I got a knock on the door, and my auntie and my uncle they knocked on the door. They was like, "Man, we found your mom in the woods in Mississippi, and she's gone." I instantly became like, I could see and hear everything, but I wasn't even in the room no more. Fast forward to now, I still haven't, I have not had the moment to where I have been able to cry or anything. How did you handle the initial hearing that your mom had passed?
So I want to give you like backstory just because I think it changes the perspective of things, right? So it wasn't just a random call, like, your mom suddenly died. She got diagnosed with breast cancer the first time, I want to say in 2016, 2017. She kept it from us for the
Mm,
longest. She finally told us, hey, I got breast cancer, but it's taken care of. So we go about our lives. The next year, I had like a dream. God had begun to speak to me in dreams about her. I had a
mm-hmm,
dream that either she was dying or about to die. And I only told one of the younger siblings. And so I just started, I started praying, of course, like, God, I don't understand this dream, got clarity. I went home for about 2 weeks. I just laid eyes on her. And I asked her, I said,
mm-hmm.
Mom, did your cancer come back? No. Okay. So as she's lying to me, right?
Yeah.
God is also speaking to me through dreams, through prayer, through other friends. Your mother's health is in danger. And
Mm,
I didn't know specifically what. So all that to say that he had been preparing me along the way.
yeah.
And so we had a brother that was incarcerated at the time. And he was like, well, don't tell him the bad news because, I'm like, I have to tell him this because if something would have happened,
Yeah.
I don't want him to be caught off guard.
Yeah.
So fast forward, the third time it comes around, um, she tells us, but she didn't tell us that it was terminal. And so we had to kind of piece things together. So throughout the course of 3 or 4 years, I'm having dreams. I'm praying, God is showing me things along the way and just preparing me. So when I initially I had got back to Texas that April, no, that March. We took her to the doctor on her birthday, and that's when we found out that it pretty much was terminal.
Mm-hmm.
So I got back to Texas, and I get a call, that her body's starting to shut down. And so in that moment, even God preparing me along the way, I still stopped. Like I'm just like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, I'm singing about you being a healer. I'm declaring that you're good. And how do you let this happen?
Yeah.
2015, I moved here because God told me to. My grandmother died in 2017. Then my mother dies in 2020. And so I'm like, God, how do you let this happen? How do you explain this?
Mm-hmm.
And so in that moment, it was just, I was all over the place. I'm trying to pack. I'm trying to drive to Michigan. I'm trying to, I don't know how long I'm going to be in Michigan. I don't know if my job is going to allow it. It's just a lot of unknowns. But in that moment, it's like, I have to get to Michigan.
Yeah.
And so I saw her in the hospital, man, and it was just, it tore me up.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't stop crying. I could barely book a flight. Friends had to help me with that. It still hurt.
Yeah.
So it hurt as the same as if it was a sudden call, I guess
Yeah.
is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Um, and it wasn't until like I didn't start the grieving process until 2 months after she died.
Mm-hmm.
Once I got back to Texas, that's when I started to grieve because back home, I'm the oldest of my mom's side, so I'm taking care of the family. Her
Yeah.
affairs are not in order. They had months of homelessness, no vehicle. So there were a lot of things I had to kind of figure out, and it was just one of those where I got to suck this up and do what needs to be done,
Yeah.
and I'll take care of Ja'Quoi on the other end,
Yeah.
right? So that was the initial call, and within I think a matter of a couple of days, she had died. She died that Friday. I want to say I
Wow.
got home that Monday or Tuesday, and COVID is fresh.
Yeah.
All of us could not see her in the hospital. My brother's still incarcerated, who couldn't attend the funeral. Two of my brothers, they had to see her through a glass window in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
My two sisters, they were the first who were able to see her there, and they broke down. So we're trying to make sense of this, but our mom is gone.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm imperfect. I don't care. What her life was. That's our mother,
Yeah.
and she's gone. So we're having to deal with it. So it hurt. It tore me up. For months, I did not sing. I didn't care about service. I didn't care about church. I
Mm-hmm.
like God. I'm upset at my mother because she struggled with drugs for years.
Uh-huh.
In the last 15 plus years, she was clean, but prior to that,
Mm-hmm.
drugs could have taken her out. So
Yeah.
God, you allow her to get cancer and then she dies in a matter of a couple of years.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of questions I had, man. I'm frustrated with her because I feel like, she didn't take care of her health. I'm upset with God because I feel like he let me down. And how can I declare that you're a healer when you had an opportunity to heal, but you didn't?
Yeah.
Or you had an opportunity to protect her and you didn't.
Yeah.
So that's initially that's where my mind was.
I literally can identify with all of that because that's where I was, and I don't know, it was weird to me because just like you, I was on Facebook telling people if God can heal me, he can heal you, da 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 da, and then
Hmm.
turn around and it's like, eh. But I can only imagine how that has influenced not just your life, but has influenced your music and has given you the ability to write this book. How has all of this, what has this done for you musically?
It has intensified my worship. It has, from what other people said, took me to another level in worship. Of
Hmm.
course, I can't really see it from other people's perspective all the time, if
Right.
any, but just from what people are saying, there's something different. You're climbing, and to go through something that deep,
Hmm.
like God has to bring beauty out of those ashes. He has
Yeah.
to. He has to give me joy for my sorrow and turn my mourning into dance. He has to. That's his word.
This is word.
So I literally had to one sit and deal with everything that I was feeling, everything I was thinking. So counseling really helped me to go to God with those things. So said I
Yeah.
not, there will be no more music. There will be no book. There will be
Yeah.
no ministry. I would just be like, okay, I'm good. I'm good on Christianity
Yeah.
because the God that I say that I serve is not really who I think he is.
Yeah.
So dealing with that helped me to really learn God for who he is, to see how his hand was in this the entire way. One of the hardest truths I had to deal with is that God gives us free will.
Facts.
And we don't talk about Genesis 2 and 3 talks about, Adam and Eve. And, he set before them the tree of life and death. And he told them not to do this, but they did that. So there was consequences to that. So
Facts.
if he told my mother to get chemo or radiation and she didn't, she made the choice.
Mm.
And I'm like, but God, you're sovereign. You're all powerful. Couldn't you have made her do that? Yes, but forced love is not love at all. He can force us to do whatever. He's
Yeah.
God. But he gives us the choice. He established that in the beginning.
Yeah.
So that was, I'm like, God, but I felt, you didn't, come on, man. What were
Yeah.
you doing? You knew she wasn't, you know your child. You couldn't have healed her like you healed my grandmother.
Yeah.
So I had to deal with that. And just that, and I had to sit with that for a minute, man. Because I'm like, this is not enough, God. So just through time and talking to God and my counselor, and she really pushed me to not just settle for a mediocre answer or a religious answer.
Yeah.
So that counseling alone helped me to really understand God, how he works,
Hmm.
how selfish I was in this matter, because it was all about me and mine. I lost my mom and I'm sad. And it's like, you haven't considered what she had to go through.
Yeah.
You didn't consider how difficult it was for her to make those choices.
Yeah.
So it opened my eyes to a lot more, man. I see God differently now.
Yeah.
I see him for who he is. I don't see him through the eyes of religion or tradition or any of the other, stuff that we kind of put in place of God.
Yeah.
He's still God. He's still healer. And I'm not saying that from a religious standpoint. Oh, he's still healer.
Yeah.
I know he's still healer. I've
Yeah.
seen him heal people. So I've,
Yes.
I've learned to, I've had to sit with what I believe and why I believe what I believe and
Hmm.
allow God to really help my unbelief and help
Yeah.
my ungodly beliefs in everything in music. So that has taken place in here and here. So my music it's a reflection of that.
Yeah.
So if you go and listen to the last project, Rest in God, that sounds a lot different from the last two projects.
Yeah.
You can hear hurt, you can hear pain, you can hear
Yeah.
frustration, anger, tiredness. You hear all of that in those tracks. And I'm pouring out my heart because at that point, that's where I was. So that has helped me to, in my opinion, reach more people because now, like, I'm not an open book.
Yeah.
I'm not, so now I'm able to talk to more people about how God has brought me through this. So now my reach is a little further. I can talk to the
Hmm.
person who's lost their mother. I can talk to the drug addict. I can talk to the kid whose parents, wasn't there. And I'm able to reach more, not just through conversation, but through music
Yeah.
and now through a book. So I think that God, obviously, well, I know that God is using this to help me to reach more people, for him to get through to more people that he may have not gotten through had I not come through this.
The one thing that I appreciate about you as a person, but in music, is the fact that you just use regular language. Like you're not this real deep, spooky, spiritual human being that put words together that people be like, what is he talking about? Like
Yeah.
you talk and sing in real language, man. And I think that's one of the things that draw people to you because people really understand you. But what is the meaning of resting God? Where did that concept come from?
So shout out to pastors Joel and Yvonne Brooks in Kalamazoo. They pastor Stone's Church, formerly known as Christian Life Center.
Okay.
He initially he talked about a lot of things that really changed my mind, changed how I think. And one of those things was resting in God. You know, initially I thought that resting in God was limited to the Sabbath, a day of the week. But he talked about Jesus being our eternal rest. Like God has already planned out our lives for us. So we rest in his finished work. We rest in his plan. And in simple terms, to rest in God simply means to trust in God, to
Mhm.
not do things in your own strength, to not try to figure out life on your